how to create a synchronous Ajax request by setting the third parameter of open method to false. In this example, we are going to be looking at how we can use the synchronous Ajax request by setting the third parameter of open method to false and understand why it eliminates the need for an event handler like unload, unlike the previous examples that we've seen recently. So normally Ajax is asynchronous, that is, it runs and works quietly in the background while your page keeps running. But a synchronous request is the exact opposite. So it turns your code into a strict single file line. So when you fire off a synchronous request, JavaScript hits a complete pause button on the entire browser tab. Think of it like the way alert box and a confirm box works in JavaScript, that you will not be able to click on any part of the page until you make a decision as to whether you want to accept it or not. So the user cannot click, they cannot scroll or interact with anything until the server finishes responding, because it locks the user interface, and it is rarely used today outside of quick testing or older legacy websites. But it's a good thing that you know about how Ajax do synchronous request on its own. So let's move into the script tag and let's make an example. So let's make a function and call it maybe something like synchronous. I don't know if this is correct. Synchronous request. So you might not want to name your own function like this. You can name it anything. And let's make a variable of xHTTP inside it and assign the xHTTP request constructor object to it. And now http.open method. Inside this open method, so let's pass our HTML verb inside it, as well as maybe something like a file or a URL where we have our information. So for this example, let's use a simple text file. And lastly, we are going to add something else, a boolean value, either true or false. But in this case, we are going to add false. And now you can construct your send method and do document.get element by id dot inner html http dot response text. And right now, let's add a button, and let's add a type of button to it. Let's also add an ID of btn, as well as an on-click property, which is going to call the name of our function, synchronous request. This way, I can just call it click. So I go ahead now and click on this button. You can see, because the part is not correct. So if the part is correct, it should definitely return what we have inside of that file. Right now, let me check. Oh, there's actually nothing inside of it. So let me just put basic lorem ipsum text inside of it, and you can see it. That now we are getting that lorem ipsum. Now, the example just demonstrate that when JavaScript opens a synchronous line to our file, which is the demo post.txt, the script literally stops and freezes at this part of our code, at this send method in our code. Only when the file is fully retrieved does JavaScript step to the very next line and immediately update the paragraph text using our HTTP response text. So what does that mean? Is, let's say I have another one under it, lorem rollout, and I go ahead to click this. Now you can see that this is first getting operated because is first getting executed. What I mean by that is that JavaScript by default is a synchronous language and it always reads the code from top to the bottom. So this line will first load before any other thing that we may have inside this file. So let's assume that we have something like function that says sum, and then inside it you have maybe a plus b and say return a plus b. Now, and if here you have now have something like sum 5 and 6. Now, if you go ahead and click this button, now because it's a text file, it will not execute. I'm just trying to show that this first part of our code is going to get executed first before it will move to the next one. And that is because of the way JavaScript treats its code. Because JavaScript itself is synchronous in nature. So this will delay every other thing on the page. So before you can access other things on that page. So once this runs, then you'll not be able to scroll or do anything until the result of that request is completely and readily available before you can do any other thing on the post. So I just use this as an example. Let me clear it and then click on the button again so that it can return to what we had before. So our open method here is responsible for explicitly telling the browser that do not run this request in the background. First, the browser should wait for it. So that is the purpose of that line. And our send method, on the other hand, in an asynchronous request, this line will send message and move on instantly. But in this synchronous script, the send acts like a wall. So the script freezes right here until the network request complete. And you can notice that there's nothing like unload or already state change because the script waits until the server response is completely finished before moving past our send method. So there's no need for an alarm system or a callback function to alert us when the data arrives. And finally, we have the document of that element by id method, which is written immediately after the send method. That is, this line is guaranteed to have the server ready data, to have the server data ready inside our XHTTP response text, because this script was forbidden from moving forward without it. And once it has that request and data, then it can print it out on the screen, just as you can see in this example.